I was glad to finally have an excuse to go out of the house and explore the world as we planned our holiday and adventure. We reserved an Airbnb and headed to a state park about 3 or 4 hours away because my husband and son love mountain biking. On the other hand, I didn't enjoy the area at all when we got there. An old log cabin in the middle of nowhere, far from civilization, and as rustic as it gets, with more bugs and all. It was perfect for a romantic getaway. To my husband, I confided that I genuinely did not want to remain. I sensed a negative aura in the home, despite his assurances that everything was okay, and he seemed disturbed. Due to my sensitivity, I struggled to get to sleep. Attempting to meditate didn't help me feel relaxed enough to sleep, which is a problem because I already have trouble sleeping some nights due to my sensitivity. I felt discomfort in my bikini area when I woke up the next morning and discovered that I had been bitten while in bed. I freaked out and told my spouse I was bitten by a spider because this had never happened to me before. That was a really big mouthful. Even though we didn't know for sure what it was, he reassured me it wasn't a major concern by saying he'd been bitten by spiders before. I opted to wait it out since I wanted to have an optimistic outlook and avoid wasting my vacation time at the doctor's. To begin with, it wasn't too terrible. We carried on with our vacation, and I still avoided dealing with it when I got home, feeling awkward about it. I looked up how to treat spider bites while trying to have an optimistic outlook. Since it's not common, local doctors weren't knowledgeable on how to treat them. Antibiotics are usually all they prescribe. However, I began to experience a high temperature and widespread aches and pains, much like the flu, but worse. I got down on my bed to battle it out, deciding to meditate and relax. My brush with death occurred in the privacy of my bedroom. I began to black out and see glowing balls of energy projecting out of my body. It seemed as if a little of my essence, my vitality, was seeping out. I began to reflect on my life. At first, it displayed lovely sights that inspired me to keep living, moments spent with my kids and other gifts I hadn't yet completely recognized. And yet, it also revealed the pent-up rage I'd been carrying around, a product of my violent father's narcissism and previous betrayals. Forgiving and releasing these hurts were difficult for me. Ask for help if you need anything else changed, or if you have more text to edit. Despite the difficulties in our marriage, I carried resentment and bitterness toward my father and refused to forgive him. This ordeal was God's way of showing me how much worse my rage was for my soul than the poison from the spider bite. In order to really appreciate life, I had to go through this ordeal. Even the seemingly cursed spider bite ended up being a blessing in disguise, allowing me to see things more clearly and gain a deeper knowledge of the situation. Before this, I had the misconception that I wasn't squandering life's precious moments. Seeing my life through the eyes of an observer on the outside was like watching a documentary. My furious and frustrated self-image was glaringly obvious, and I despised it. In a strange way, I'm glad that spider bit me. We learned afterwards that it was probably a brown recluse. I went to the doctor after a while since my flesh was hurting, and even though it left a small scar in a private part of my body, I'm thankful for the healing. During my conversation with the elderly woman across the street, who lived in my neighborhood, I discovered something shocking. Her father had tragically passed away 6 or 7 days after being bitten by a spider when she was a tiny girl. I felt incredibly fortunate and protected after hearing her story, especially since my own near-death experience happened around the same time. I am further convinced that my life has a purpose and a mission because of it. During another profound OBE in 2016, I was listening to calming music in the wee hours of the morning while lying in my own bed in my own home. The time was about 3 or 4 in the morning. I haven't ever heard a Tibetan chant before Alexa began playing it. Despite my initial incomprehension of the lyrics, I felt a strong pull toward the melody and eventually understood that it was calling me home. My spiritual path and understanding of my purpose on earth were both enhanced by this event. I would want to begin by expressing that I have been seeking a place to call home for the entirety of my life. In all my years on this planet, I have never once felt at home or like I belonged. Simply being myself and expressing myself in a way that is different from the norm has made me the black sheep, the outcast, the bully, and the loathed one. There was a time when I thought I was an alien. Their pleas for my return seemed like a siren song, and I felt an overwhelming urge to dance. As the vibrations grew stronger, my entire being felt as though it were collapsing back into stardust, the primordial ooze from which we all emerge, the Earth's dust. I was a being of pure light. My eyes and body had vanished. A portal materialized in the sky above me, and I was whisked away through space and time at the speed of light to the galactic core. The Creator stood before me. Within this room, I felt an overwhelming sense of unfathomable love, a frequency of unconditional pure love. This is the only love I've ever felt, and it's hard to put into words until you've felt it consume you completely. It embodies the very nature of God and is the driving force behind the cosmos. While I was engrossed in the sound and sensation of this unconditional love, tranquility, and joy, I became aware of other, smaller lights, similar to mine, in contrast to the enormous white vortex that emitted from the Creator, who seemed like a gigantic supernova. The Prime Creator and these minuscule lights became one as they merged. Additionally, I felt a calling to come forward and unite with the Creator. Oneness is a term I was familiar with from reading about Buddhism and other religions, but to actually feel it was life-changing. Having gone through this, knowing that I had returned home and been warmly welcomed, has blessed me beyond measure. Growing up with parents who were ill-equipped to love me only served to reinforce my belief that I was unworthy. I sought this unconditional love in a world where it's rare because people tend to lose sight of where they came from and the love that was once with them, despite facing numerous challenges and never fitting in. All of my discomfort, including the chronic Lyme disease pain, went away when I was in this oneness union, when I felt entirely at home, a place of unadulterated awe. During this time, I felt a strong sense of purpose, to inform others about this experience and how love is the core of who we are, just as it is for the Creator. We are all love, a speck, a fragment of the Creator, passing through this world as humans while we live through a veil of illusion that masks our own essence. My identity does not make me unique. One thing I'd like to do is help others understand how unique they are. You have to know that I didn't realize how much you loved me until today, and I hold that love in my heart. I've recreated that sensation, that energy, that vibration, and that experience so that I may love myself more. It's not real, I've realized, when I don't believe in my own worth, and when I don't believe the world loves me. Love from the Creator is all that matters. Love is the solution, and we must all keep that in mind. True love, the ability to love oneself and one's adversaries equally, is what we all need. Everything that I may have been embarrassed of or rejected has become a part of me that I now embrace. I also think such areas are deserving of love. To deserve love, we need not be flawless. Many devout individuals erroneously believe this. Religion does not exist. God does not have any. These structures were created by humans. I had to learn all over again that anything dissuades people from loving, understanding, and forgiving their neighbor as themselves is not really from God or whatever we call Creator. Love and authenticity are what really count. To love the Creator as much as you are loved back, and to reflect that love into the world is the finest form of worship. Therefore, embody it. Being a teacher of love has been my ultimate goal.